Minds, Better Lives with me, Tom, and Hayley. Hello, Hayley.
Hi, are you okay?
I'm very well, thank you. We were just talking about stepping back to move forward, and one of the big punchlines actually that we didn't get to was, yes, you had a bit of help from a bit of AI to get you to where you were, but it's transformed your ability to start talking about what it is that you do. And if you don't follow Hayley on LinkedIn, you need to, because one thing I've noticed in the last couple of weeks is that you are consistently putting out helpful advice to anyone who's in like the business sphere and those that might want to know more about themselves and understand themselves. Do you want to just give yourself a bit of a plug?
Yeah, you can find me as Hayley T. Wheeler on LinkedIn and anywhere really. Apparently, I come up very often on a Google search. Yeah, it's all for me. It's all about sharing that knowledge and helping people just feel better about themselves. So if you do want to find out some more about the work that I do or some tips for making yourself feel better, come and join me. Come and follow me.
Yeah, it's great. I get to log in on my LinkedIn because I do love a bit of LinkedIn. And without scrolling very far, there's usually something really insightful from Hayley, and they're not long. They're just little snippets, little tidbits, a bit of write up as to what you've learned and what you want to share, which has been amazing. That's why we're one of the reasons we're talking about goals in the first place, because that feeds into how you want to feel in your goal of sharing your knowledge and helping other people feel a bit uplifted.
Yeah, it's the reason I do what I do. To be able to see somebody go from being sad and not in control of life to just living life and thriving and just having a ball in life, that is just a miracle for me.
Yeah. And that's great. And we're just talking there about August, is where people hopefully are thriving. I suppose August arguably is the month of denial. It's summer. We'll deal with that later. Yeah, my out of office is on. Everything's fine. Don't bother me. We'll sort this out in September. And then September comes around and it's like, oh, it's September. I just alluded to it as more important than New Year because it is where everything gets back. It's where rush hour traffic comes back. It's where all those emails catch up with you from August, and the project that you kind of put to bed a little bit when other people are on holiday all comes back and rears its ugly head. And you could risk a bit of overwhelm.
Yeah, I think so. It's really underestimated in September because, as you've said there, now the things that change from August, and yes, some people are still working through August. They still have to do the childcare thing, but coming back to how you were in July, it's a long time, isn't it? We get out of routine for such a long time, and then bang, you're back in routine, and it's good to prepare for it because
Mhm.
it can be overwhelming. It can feel like it's too much. When you've been driving to work and it's quite clear every morning, and then you realise on the 4th of September, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late for work. That's
it,
tough.
it's happened to all of us. we're spoiled. Those that do carry on working throughout summer, you're like, this is a breeze. I can do this whenever I want. And then all of a sudden, the school buses are back on the road. The people are back on their daily commutes in their cars and on the buses. And then all of a sudden, you've got an increase of stress to go along with that as well.
Yes, unfortunately, we do. It's getting the kids to school, getting them up, getting them, after they've had lions all summer, trying to get them up for school, get them fed, get them organised to get all their stuff together, get yourself organised because you've only had you to organise. It is quite a stressful time. But do you wait until it happens come September, or are you preparing now?
So even as someone relatively young, as much as I do the breakfast show, and I'll be back on tomorrow morning, three, not one, not two, but three guests lined up for our Feel Good Friday tomorrow morning, looking at cheese, looking at recruitment, and looking at Langham Literary Festival. As much as I love doing the breakfast show, I'm not historically a morning person. So come the summer holidays, when I was a bit younger, I was that computer guy on my consoles up until the early hours of the morning. And then I then had to have that realization probably about a week before going back to school. It was like, I should probably start trying to go to bed at a normal time.
Yeah, I bet that wasn't easy.
No, it's horrible
I bet it
because
was.
you've trained your brain to be like, now is gaming time, or whatever your early morning vice is, ice cream at 1 o'clock in the morning, or whatever it might be. And then all of a sudden it's kind of like, like reality does start, or certainly started dawning on me And I suppose, is there an argument for ignorance is bliss? And you're like, I'll set the alarm tomorrow, see what happens.
Well, yes, of course, you get a bit longer, but I think that I'm going to say this from a point of view when the clocks used to change. I'm a bit like, if you prep for it now, you reduce the risk of stress, because when the clocks used to change, when my particularly my eldest was younger, but all of them, I used to do a week before, so I would get him 10 minutes earlier every night for the week before.
Ah,
So by the time the clocks changed, there was no change to his routine or the children's routine. Now, this is a thing to consider. If you know that September is going to be a stressful time, start prepping now, or at least a week before. Get yourself into that routine of getting up earlier. Get the kids up 10 minutes earlier. Get them up 20 minutes earlier, just
yeah.
to get you all back ready for that. Because waiting until the Monday that they're going back to school to wake them at like 5 o'clock or whatever time you wake them, that's not going to go down well.
No, there's going to be some eruptions and some, yeah, it's not going to be a pleasant time if you go from like on a snap of a finger, right? Yeah, we've had this lovely time. We've had late nights and late mornings, and all of a sudden it's you got to be up and awake and alert and ready to learn all the time.
Yeah. Oh, I don't want that. That's horrible, that is. But yeah, I think there's a thing to be, if you know what you're like in September, if you've not ever taken notice of it, then you're going to learn this September. But if you know that September is a tough one, then start. We've got such a habit of waiting until the effect of something.
Hmm.
I see it with anxiety. I see it with, you know, I know that this thing makes me feel stressed. Then why are you waiting for the stress to come? Do something now.
You don't need that trigger to act on it. You can preempt the trigger.
You're going to reduce the trigger.
Yeah. And this links very closely, actually, to the goals. I know that when we talked about it just a moment ago, we were looking at kind of business and personal goals and that feeling. But the premise is still the same. If you've got a goal for that first week of September of who do I want to be, how do I want to be, how do I want to interact with other people in these first couple of weeks as we go back to September, that's a worthwhile goal to have.
It is a worthwhile goal to have, and it is really good. It's something we didn't talk about in the last segment, actually, is becoming intentional in what you do and how you do it as well. So one of the things, sort of the start of the year, one of the things we were doing with goal setting was getting up in the morning and deciding how I wanted to feel at the end of the day.
Mm.
Because by doing that, you get to decide what you do between now and the end of the day. What do I need to do to get, so say that you want to be happy and calm and at peace when you go to bed at night. What can you do throughout the day that's going to get you to that feeling? And everything starts to fall in place, as we were talking about earlier about, visualization and things like that. But if you know that at the end of the week, you want to have made friends or whatever that goal is, be intentional yourself. Don't just wait for it to happen. What do you need to do, and what do you need as a resource or as people to help you get there?
Yeah. Two great words, and we've already mentioned one of them a little bit, but the choice being one of them. We do actually have a lot of influence over a lot of what happens to us. A lot of things happen to us, but what we do in response to that is 99% what we choose to do. But the other word there, that intentionality, we can go into any situation, any moment with an intention as to, I want to come out of this feeling X. I want to come out of this knowing that I've expressed myself truly to myself. That intentionality is really strong, and that goes back into that visualization, not necessarily a goal as such, but visualize who am I and who do I want to be, how do I want to be portrayed, and what actions can I take that echo that. I suppose that's another thing that we haven't really touched on is intentionality and the actions to go with it.
Yeah, definitely. But unless you know what you want, back that sat nav thing, unless you know what you want to achieve, how are you going to take the right actions? So if at the end of every day you want to feel a particular way, just figure out, and you will do it, because you'll be like, right, by the time I get to bed, I want to be calm. I'm not going to get stressed today. I'm not going to go put myself in stressful situations, or I'm going to be prepared for my meeting, or you'll start to do things that will produce that outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
you said earlier, Tom, about things happen to us. They do, but sometimes they don't have to happen to us when we become intentional.
And that's exactly the point I was going to get into. A lot of the stimulus that we receive throughout the day, the pinging on our phone, another email, can you do this for me? Can you do that? They're not actually ours to do at that moment in that exact time. Yes, we have deadlines, but how many of those things, when they pop into our inbox, how many of them actually matter if they get done in that moment at that time when you're already focused and intentionally looking at something else?
Well, I've learned 2 tips this week. I've forgotten the second one, but the first one is just one notification on your phone, right? So just a ping, that can take you 23 minutes to get over that distraction, to get back into. So say you're doing work, and so we've all got our phones on, you're doing work, ding of the phone, you've clocked it, 23 minutes to get back on track.
And I'm sure that over the last year we've talked about state of flow and things like that, and getting into that higher realm of I am on it, I am in it, nothing can distract me. If you then take into account every message that comes in, you're never going to get to that state.
Well, I would go on your well-being thing on your phone, the app on your phone, in the settings. It tells you how many notifications. I've had like 999 in a day.
Oh my God, there's a setting on your phone that tells you how many notifications you've got.
If you go into your settings, there should be a well-being or something along those lines. What phone? Is it a Samsung or a...
I'm on an iPhone. I'm doing this live, so if you're watching this on the on the social media, this is what I'm looking at. Is there a way that I can get the data on it?
There's a
I
definitely. I've seen it with iPhone.
I went through a very long period of time where I turned off all of my notifications apart from like friends and people that I'd allocated that could get in touch with me, and then I ended up having to go on call, and which meant that I couldn't turn off all the notifications. And you know what? It's been so hard to turn them back off because I'm so used to being there at the end of the phone. And I've already name dropped him once, but Brendan Bouchard, he talks about what does your calendar look like? He's a big advocate on, yes, it's great to have goals, it's great to have your tasks, but unless you allocate time to them, are you actually going to get through with them, or are they just a nice whimsical idea? And are you actually going to be distracted by everything else that happens? And if it's a task that is a bit more labor intensive, then thanks for sending that through, I'll forward it on. And you've actually got to do the planning of it, and you've got to like a bit of deeper thinking. It's very easy to push them off. And it's very easy to use a notification as an excuse. Oh, I must do this now. When actually, come September, that might not be the best way of getting through your actual big tasks.
No, and I think this is something. I'm not a natural planner organizer in terms of I get everything done, but I'm not saying it gets done in a very pretty way. It just gets done. And I think this, if you recognize that in yourself, it is really worth. What I've done recently is a time audit.
Oh yeah. Oh
That's another
gosh.
thing.
How did that go?
Well, I think because I was very aware, I was a little bit better with my time, but I can see where I waste time and I lose time. We say time flies, but time is your most precious resource ever. And yet, when I did my time audit, it was quite surprising where time went. It was more for the business side, but do it if you ask just before September now, if you're stressing about September, do a time audit for how you are now, and then do a kind of a pretend one and add in all the extra things you'll be doing in September. So add in the school run if you've got school runs in September, add in visits to parents or visits to family or whatever that you are not forced to do at the moment because everybody's busy and they're on holidays. But you'd be really surprised at where your time goes. It was a really big one.
Wow. And people think that we do have all the time in the world, as the song goes. But when you break down a 24-hour day, of which you sleep ideally between like 7 and 8 hours, uh, uh, yeah, he says at 20 past 10 when he's got a breakfast show to do the following day. So you're sleeping in that time, you're eating in that time. If you've got a young family, you're catering to that in that time. Having a big long to-do list of these wonderful tasks and goals that you've got, if that you could, you do have to be realistic as to what you can achieve in any given time.
Yeah, but I suppose if you are planned and organised, and this is something I'm working on with somebody, if you can do it well, then you can do everything in a more calm way. Whereas if you're like me a little bit, I'm a little bit chaotic in that I don't really plan properly. So I should have everything that the kids' timetables and stuff like that in my diary. I know where they are. I know exactly where everybody is and what time they're finishing and whatever. But to have that plan, my friend, she actually plans in procrastination. That's how well she plans.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
really good tool. But if that's what if that would help you, then sit down and plan and really understand where your time goes, because that then reduces your stress. It tells you where you're going to be, so you know where you're going to be in advance, and if you need to tell everybody else. But it's little things like that will help you be a bit more focused and a bit more efficient and effective with your time.
Yeah, and this goes as well for those that like. I think it's fair to say that we've got quite irregular jobs. We don't have your 9 to 5, but even those with a 9 to 5 can use that method because you've probably got routine tasks that you have to carry out throughout your day, and then you've got the tasks that are the forward planning tasks, the ones that do need a bit more thought. Most jobs allocate you with an email. Most email addresses come with a calendar. If not, make your own calendar and be like, right, I'm going to focus on that forward task for this chunk of time.
Mm.
And the way that I used to do it when I had my 9 to 5 is I always used to allocate a little bit more than I thought necessary. And then if I finished early, then at least I had that breathing time to be like, I can actually take 5 minutes of nothing to transition ready for the next task.
Yeah. Now, so the planning stuff I'm working on at the moment is all about planning in things like that. So planning in that 5-10 minutes and not leaving it to chance. Now, we don't give ourselves permission to take, downtime. We've said that already. We talked about bigger downtime, but we don't give ourselves permission to take downtime throughout the day. But my friend who I'm working with, she says, plan it in.
Yeah.
So when it was warm, I was going outside to sunbathe for half an hour. She said, put it in your planner. Don't think you have to have something ongoing all the time. And this is another thing. We think we have to be busy all the time to be productive. But actually, I think that's quite counterproductive.
I agree.
I think we can have downtime and still be extremely productive, possibly more productive than having a full schedule and calendar.
Yeah. I used to allocate time to read, and I'd allocate like 11s is a big deal with me. So I have my 15-20 minutes at about 11. I have my cup of tea. I have 3-4 biscuits. And but that for me, right? It's in my calendar. I'm stopping for 11s, and then I'll get back onto the next task. It's a great break from what I was doing to what I'm going to do, and then allocating that. And this sounds really like some people laugh at my calendar, but I've got eat. It was like I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop so I can snack or have my lunch, have a break. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to sunbathe. And I suppose the beauty of scheduling that along with your tasks is that you can do them guilt-free because you know that you're going to go straight back on task because you've allocated it. You know that that's going to come next.
And this is the thing, you're reducing the unhelpful distractions by planning it.
Yeah, and the thing that reoccurs most in my diary at the moment is check emails and messages. I can't control when the emails get sent to me, but I can control when I action them.
Yeah.
And that for me is what was my biggest revelation is like I don't need to respond to this straight away. And in fact, if you do, you set a really damaging precedent for your own self where people are like, you haven't replied to me yet. It's like I used to be quite forthright in my office. It's like, oh, did you get my email this morning? It's like, yeah, but I don't check my emails till 1:30. Like I don't check my emails till after lunch.
Yeah.
If you needed me to do something today, you should have thought about that before. That's
Yeah.
your ill planning that's affecting. Like I'm not going to let that impact my day and my tasks and my project. And I'm quite forthright on that.
But it's good though, isn't it, to have those boundaries in place because that's how you operate best. If
Yeah.
that's what allows you to operate at peak performance all the time, then you continue to do that. And I don't think we really think about it like that. You know, when we talk about planning, I find planning quite a drag, right? But with doing the time audit and speaking to my friend she's guiding me through, she's got a system that she's designed herself, being able for her to say, plan in that if you're going to sunbathe, put it in your planner. Don't think that it's a guilt thing. If you're going to sit in the garden and work, put it in your planner. If you're going to pick the kids up, put it in your planner. So you're realistic with what you think you can achieve in that time frame where you have time to work.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, the first time I did it, I found it really humbling because I was like, oh, I turn up to work and I'm going to do all of these things. And then you actually break it down into the 7 or 8 hours that you're there in the office. It's like, I can't. Like, there's physically not enough time to get through everything that's needed on my to-do list. And this fallacy that a to-do list is ever complete. It's never complete.
No.
So don't like, you come September and you think, oh, I've got all these things to do. You can't beat yourself up and think, I need to do this all by 5 o'clock. Or I can't leave the office till it's done. We have lives outside of whatever else we're working on. And it's important to recognize that and be like, you know what? It's probably still going to be there tomorrow.
Yeah. And, you know, I think as well, in the way we've got to a point where we are constantly busy. We have made ourselves busy. So if it's not doing work, it's busy in our mind on social media. Because social media, as much of a distraction as it is, it's a busy place.
Mm-hmm.
So you are stimulated, you know, even television, you're stimulated with television. You know, if you read a book, I remember when I was unwell, I would read mindless stuff. So stuff that didn't really interest me, that would put me to sleep. Because when I was going to bed at like 2 o'clock in the morning, when I was getting up at 4, I needed something to put me to sleep rather than something that was about self-development or something that was interesting and intriguing.
Yeah.
And I think we have to learn or unlearn how to be so stimulated all the time.
Yeah, and it's okay to embrace that nothingness.
Maybe we need a day of nothingness. That should be a day.
Yeah. Yeah. Right, we'll get Tammy on the case. She loves the National Day.
Oh, she does. I know. I don't like those national days, but yeah, I think imagine that, a day of nothing, just all shops close, everything closes, because you think, right? Shops close Christmas Day, some close Boxing Day, not all.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, like Christmas Day, how busy are we doing Christmas?
Yeah.
That's not even a downtime, really.
Well, no, I'm sure that we'll talk about that in December's show about the stress and the expectation of Christmas. That's something that we'll be coming up to in a matter of months as well, because it's not downtime. You need that week off between Christmas and New Year's to get over it. In fact, we were talking about distractions there. I've found on my phone where my notifications are. It's been a below average day today for me on my notifications.
Okay.
123 notifications today, and yesterday 239 notifications.
So
yeah, you go.
23 minutes every time one of those comes in.
Yeah, like I can see now why people are muting chats and just aren't, like, you can't. That's not sustainable in any way.
Well, one of the second tip I thought about just now that came up, I don't know how true this is. One of the guys I met with, he's another planner organizer. He said a couple of months ago, take all your apps off your phone. Only have your phone, text, WhatsApp, but take Facebook off, take YouTube off, all those ones that we are all on, take them off. That's one tip he said. But something came up yesterday, and it said to make your screen black and white.
Oh, okay.
Because the colours of the apps are supposed to be addictive. So it's less interesting when it's black and white.
So you're not drawn to, like, I suppose, like Snapchat is bright yellow, Facebook and all of that lot are blue. So it's like, oh, let's have a look at look. And then you're straight into it without even realizing it. So another tip which I heard, if you're thinking, I'm on my phone all the time, is have your front page as like the important stuff, and then hide all the others in folders on like the other second and third page. So you can't see them straight away. It's like, oh, I need to find the folder, and like you learn it. So it might be with like mixing up your homepage every now and then. So it's not that remote that muscle memory of, oh, it's the bottom left hand screen. Oh, I'm on Facebook again. Scroll,
Yeah.
scroll.
Have you seen the Social Dilemma on Netflix?
I haven't.
It's well worth a watch.
Okay. The
Depends how much truth
distractions.
you want.
It depends on what, sorry.
How much truth you want.
Oh gosh, I don't know if I'm ready. But useful. And I suppose we're talking about all of these and like going into September, reducing the distractions. Here, let's try and round up. So we've already talked about goals and how you want to feel. We talked about going in September where life just turns back on. And a bit like when lockdown finished, oh, we're going to maintain this lifestyle of going for 45-minute walks every day, and I'm not going to be so focused on work. We probably go into the end of summer in September thinking that a similar thing, and then September comes. So we're looking at alleviating distractions, staying clear on your focus and your goals and what you want to achieve, and not necessarily just actually taking time to do a bit of an audit and be like, what is realistic for me and my circumstances and my family circumstances, so that we don't have these peaks of stress, which may cause a bit of friction and tension within the families and within your work groups.
Yeah, absolutely. And being intentional as well. So, rounding all that off with being intentional and making choices that are good for you. And I think that's another thing, is having those, having very good boundaries. Where I see boundaries, I'm going to quick one now. I see boundaries as like a boxing ring. So they're very straight, but you can flex them when you need to.
Nice. Oh, I like that.
So I think if you set good boundaries, but if you need to flex them because somebody needs your help or something needs to change, then you can, but you bring them straight back in. But you've got to know those boundaries first, which will help you stay on track.
I like that analogy where you've got your square ring, but if you need to, you can flex that. And it's not like, the reality of life is that things happen. You might have your daughter with a broken wrist. You might have illness. You might have whatever happens. You're going to have to bend and flex with your circumstances. But as long as you know what you're resetting to, whether that's a boundary or your goal, then you know what you're coming back to. Helen Marie, I've watched that. It was very interesting. So she's up to speed on social networks.
The Social Dilemma program is good.
It's good. Okay, I need to add that to my watch list. Fantastic. So we're back in September, being intentional, and having that choice, and setting a boundary is a choice. And I suppose we mentioned this earlier. Having a choice and setting those boundaries means that you're not necessarily going to please everyone, but that's also not realistic.
Do you want to please everyone?
Oh, elaborate.
Well, you're not ever going to please everyone, are you?
No.
So the endeavour to try and please everyone, ultimately, who's going to suffer? It's going to be
the individual. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, if you're suffering, then your family are going to suffer. So as you start to decide to put your pleasure first, I want to be happy. By the end of this week, and making me happy means not having to visit 3 lots of family throughout the week and take 20 kids to sports, or, there's loads of things you can say no to. And I think that no is such a small word, but so powerful and so necessary to have good boundaries.
Yes. It's so powerful, and I suppose we've been brought up in this society where we must do as we're told, and if we're ordered to do something, then we've got to get on. That when your children just get along with each other, when actually relationships and personalities were not designed to be compatible with every single person that we cross paths with, and it's just luck of the draw if you end up in a work environment where you get on with everyone. Consider yourself very lucky. because it doesn't always happen, particularly in larger organizations. If you're lucky, your small team looks after yourself and you look after your own mental health within your team. But the chances are you're going to end up working with some people that just don't vibe with you, don't get you, don't understand your way of working. And you need to be very intentional and have the choice of being like, I know that I can only work with you at this level. I'm going to give you what I need to get the project done, to get what needs to be done. But actually, we don't need to please them. We don't need to get to the extent where they become our best friends. It's about delivering the outcome that's desired for your role.
Yeah, cooperation, collaboration, and that's all it needs to be with somebody like that. Whatever you need to get done. But interestingly, we did a quick workshop yesterday, not on the full thing, but on See Me. It's called See the Letter Me, and it's like an insights discovery personality thing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the facilitators shared a story about being opposite personalities to somebody in work, and they were opposite personalities, and then they did this test and they realized it, but it allowed them to work together. It allowed them to figure out where the conflict was and how they could get around that conflict so they could collaborate and cooperate. They weren't going to be best friends ever,
Mm-hmm.
but they became better work colleagues just by understanding you do it your way, I do it my way.
Yeah. And that's okay. And in fact, having more non-judgmental conversations with those who we find challenging can bear fruitful results. And the key aspect there is that non-judgmental. There is no right or wrong. It's this is how I approach, and being able to take out pride, take out I'm better than you, or I don't like you, and just being like, here's how I approach situations. Treat it as quite a black and white conversation, and consider this is how I handle this. That's how you handle this. This is the difficulty I have with that. Then at least you've got a greater level of understanding of the other person. It focuses more on empathy and about your individual skills and outcomes, as opposed to why aren't they doing it like this? It's because that's not how they do it.
But I think you've just rounded up exactly what we said all the way through the show. Because if you think about results day, how do you cope as an individual? It's all about that. And with goals, what do you need to do and what do you need to achieve your goals? When we get so personal and so individual and so when we understand ourselves better than we understand anybody else, then you become in control of your choices, of being intentional, of what happens, how you achieve your goals. So you've just wrapped it all up in a little present with a bow.
Well, you know what? And that is perfect timing as well, because Carl Williams, who usually collaborates, in fact, goals, if he was available, goals is his bag. He would have been throwing more names at us, and all the books that he's read and how he gets people achieving tangible goals like in the gym, but also mindset and nutrition. So Carl's a great person to follow on with this. But Carl has been having conversations throughout the weeks, and one of the ones that we've picked out one of his conversations that he's had recently with Ditch the Label, a mental health charity that's working with a global cosmetic brand to try and alleviate the impact of mental health on younger people. Wow. So we're actually going to finish the show. This is the last you'll hear from me and Hayley this evening, actually, on Healthy Minds, Better Lives, because we're going to hand over to Carl when he caught up with Liam from CEO from Ditch the Label to talk about what they're planning to achieve and how you can find out more about it as well. So, Hayley, thank you from me first and foremost.
Thank you for being here.
And if you've been watching these videos and you've got any questions and you think, oh, I really like to delve deeper on this aspect, let us know. You can email us, studio@purewestradio.com. We're going to be back again next month on... Let's have a look. I'm going to give you the date right now. The 14th of September is the next show. So tune back in then. We'll have another group of segments for us to talk about. Email us with your thoughts and your questions and what you've learned, and maybe you've implemented things yourself. One thing I haven't mentioned is a conversation I had with someone going into September. They'd lost their focus. They had their goal, but they forgot their focus. And they're going back to September with a new job, which has got an option to go back to what they wanted it to be in the first place, and just more time to themselves, which is exactly what they wanted, but they didn't know how to get there. They'd lost why they were doing it, and linking that in as well. So, yeah, these are things that we love talking about here on Healthy Minds, Better Lives. We'll be back next month. Hopefully, we'll have Tammy back with us, and she'll probably still be a lovely glow from where she is at the moment, because she's on her holidays at the moment. Sending all of our love to Tammy and to the family. And yeah, we're gonna pass over to Liam and Carl.
Fab. Have a good evening.
Have a great one, Hayley. Looking forward to next month already.
Yeah. See you then.
In fact, we've got S Club. These are the days. The first one. I think we've done a show on grief before, and of course they've released this song in memory of Paul Catamol, who sadly passed away. This is on our A list at the moment, and then you're going to hear direct from Carl. It's 10:42 here this evening. Thank you very much for your company, and yeah, we'll do it again. Thank you so much, Hayley.
Bye.